Hey, what's up everybody? Devilor here with Game 3 between Spacek and Newborn here on Jungle Basin. Spacek is now down 2-0 in this series. He needs to be able to win this game if he wants to come back. And like I mentioned in the previous game, this was in fact a loser pick tournament, so he has apparently chosen that he wants to play on Jungle Basin for this map. So we see Spacek as the blue Protoss in the southeast corner of the minimap here. And up here in the northwest, we have Newborn as the yellow Zerg. Now, we've seen basically the same build out of Spacek in both games. He was going for that sort of Immortal Stalker Templar build, which has been quite successful in PvZ lately, but hasn't really been able to quite pull it off. I would not be surprised to see him do something slightly different here, just because what he's doing apparently wasn't working. And of course, Newborn, honestly, I would not be surprised to see something different out of Newborn as well, just because, you know, when you're up 2-0 in a best of 5 and it's game 3, you can afford to do something a little different. You can afford to try and do something that your opponent is not going to expect. Just, you know, if it works, then great, you win, and if it doesn't work, then you still have 2 more games that you can win in. You can really just he's got to be feeling very, very confident at this point. Oh, I like that, by the way, bouncing by the Xel'Naga Watchtower. A lot of scouting, or a lot of players, when they scout out on this map, just decide to go around the sides, and just dropping by that Xel'Naga Watchtower can help quite a bit. I apologize. I'm actually slightly sick at the moment, so talking is actually somewhat difficult, but I'm going to go through this game anyway because I want to show it to you guys. So, Gateway coming up again on, looks like about maybe even 12, probably 13. Pretty close, pretty similar anyway. He has the Manor Pylon going down here, blocking off this expansion from Newborn. So Newborn's going to go ahead and drop his spawning pool, drop his extractor, and looks like he wants to probably go for some early speedlings, or maybe, maybe even an early roach build. And again, this drone poking around here wants to make sure there's no quick expansion going on. You don't see a whole lot of like 15 Nexus action out of a Protoss player, but some players do like to do that. Cybernetics core now going down for Spacek, and he is in fact getting his gas. That's actually a very, very late gas. Usually you want to get that a little bit earlier just to be able to have enough for both the Stalker and Warp Gates right as soon as your Cybernetics core finishes. But he's going for something a little bit later this time. In fact, letting his Chrono Boost get quite high as well, because he looks like he wants to Chrono Boost out that Zealot and finish that wall off as quickly as possible. Still no real... Okay, there's a couple Zealots, or excuse me, Zerglings down here now, wanting to take a few nibbles away at this this pylon here, so that he can eventually expand, and a Roach Warren going down. So he is going for an early Roach build. He's getting Zergling speed, he's got his Queen up, he's spitting away all over that hatchery. I'm actually terrified to think of what sort of spit a Queen might have that causes larvae to grow on a hatchery, but I don't want to think too much about the biology of Zerg at the moment, so I'm just going to leave that one alone. Overlord's scouting around over here to make sure that no expansion is going down. He's actually very, very worried about that expansion for some reason. Jungle Basin is a map that you can expand pretty easily on, just because your front ramp actually walls it off, and there are these destructible rocks in the back that it takes a lot of work to actually get around there and get to those. It's very, very much out of the way. So it's basically the antithesis to the rocks on the map Blistering Sands, where once you knock out the rocks, the defender is actually at a huge disadvantage. But in this situation, it's actually very, very easy to defend your natural expansion. Finally killing that drone. Gonna take some shots at it. Getting his second gateway up. I'll go ahead and pull up the production tab. He's about halfway finished on his warp gates, and it looks like speed is just now finishing at the spawning pool over here, Zergling speed, and he is getting his hatchery up at his natural expansion as well. So again, really, really macro-focused gameplay out of both players. That early Manor Pylon did not actually bother Newborn at all. He just decided he's going to change up the order he gets things in a little bit. Looks like he's getting his layer now. And he's falling into a very, very similar build to what we've seen him doing all 3 games so far. So not opting to do something crazy and out of the ordinary. He knows what works for him, and he's just going to keep doing that. Warp Gates now finishing for Spacek. He's getting those up, getting a Forge up, opting to get a Forge before... Oh no, he's actually getting a Stargate. Now that's interesting. I myself have been experimenting a lot with Stargate play against Zerg in the early game, so I am really curious to see what he does here. It's feels kind of late at this point to do any sort of really hefty early harassment, but Stargate units are actually pretty good against Zerg. So we'll see if he... the big question is going to be if he decides to make Phoenixes or Void Rays. So it looks like it's Phoenixes. Okay, so he's going to go for some Phoenixes. They're very good against Zerg. Obviously, they can do things like snipe off Overlords. If I can actually find any Overlords, there's one. He can snipe off Overlords with them. He can lift up Queens and kill them if he gets like 2 or 3. And he can just hop in behind and kill drones and stuff too, which forces the Zerg to make more drones, which means he is not making units. So Phoenixes can be very good, excuse me, in this matchup. The problem with Phoenixes is that once he gets Hydralisks, or once he sees them, he will almost certainly go Hydralisks. Yeah, it actually doesn't look like he's doing any of his layer teching yet anyway, so he'll almost certainly go Hydralisks as soon as he sees these Phoenixes. And then the Phoenixes get pretty well shut down. Not a whole lot that they can do at that point. Not making much use out of this forge yet. Looks like he just wanted to get this cannon up. Natural expansion up and running. Starting to get some... It looks like he mostly just wants the gas, which should be kind of obvious actually now that I think about it, because he's got a whole ton of minerals and gas. He's actually got a ton of everything, so he just needs to be macroing a little bit better. Oops. Double evolution chamber going down. That's a great way to spend all those minerals. Get your upgrades. And he's, of course, getting his Hydralisk Den as well. I don't know that he's actually... Yeah, he does not know that that's there. And this is actually the first he's seen of these Phoenixes doing a little bit of swooping around in there, picking off an Overlord. Doesn't quite supply block him, but he is going to have to make another one here very soon. Looks like, can he pick up? No, that Queen is going to chase these guys away. Could actually do some lifting action and get some good shots on it. There he goes. Actually going to focus on the Queen. Should probably actually be killing the Overlord. Yeah, there he goes. He's going to kill off that. Okay, he's not going to. This Overlord, I really want to. There we go. Overlord is finally dead. Whew. That Overlord was pissing me off. So now we see all of the Overlords are now hiding in here. They're going to actually come over here and hug the lair, it looks like. A couple Hydralisks are out now. Not a whole lot in the way of Hydralisks. He's got 4 in production and 4 out already. So he's going to have a decent number here in just a minute. Not yet researching the Grooved Spines range upgrade, but he does. He actually has plenty of minerals to be able to do that, so he should probably go ahead and do that at some point. He does need to get some Overlords up, though, because that Phoenix Harass was actually fairly decent. Looks like there was a little bit more Phoenix Harass going on over here, but he got chased off by those Hydralisks down there. And, oh, he's going to come in for another poke, see if he can lift up this Queen. Yeah, there we go. He's going to come over here and attack this Queen. Can he kill it before the Hydralisks get there? It looks like... Oh, he needs to lift it again. He does lift it again. He does kill it, but he loses 2 Phoenixes in the meantime. Ugh. Not really a good trade. Probably shouldn't have listened to me and lifted again. He probably should have just gotten out of there. My bad, dude. My bad. More Phoenixes coming up. A little bit of a probe transfer going on here. Getting down to this natural expansion. Getting that up and running. And just settling back into some more macro at this point. He desperately needs, yeah, there goes, getting these 2 other assimilators up. He is running very low on the gas, but very high on the money. Protoss in the mid-game tends to be, like, you tend to just build a whole ton of money and don't really have a great way to spend it, other than, like, getting some cannons or something. But you are very limited by your gas. Of course, you could also get Zealots, but against Zerg, as we've seen, Zealots actually just don't do that great. So, let's see here. Head back to the unit, or the production tab. Uh-oh. Where is that? I want to see it. There we go. A Dark Shrine. He wants to get some Dark Templar out. He's trying all sorts of different stuff this game. Kind of a risky move, honestly. If you're doing something you might not be completely familiar with, like this Phoenix Harass, you're not quite sure what the limits of it are, then it can be tough to pull off. And then following that up with a Dark Templar push. This late in the game, it's not going to be very hard for the Zerg to get detection, so I don't know what I think about those Dark Templar. Do have a couple of Zerglings just poking around here, checking for expansions. Looks like they're going to come up here and test the front, see what kills them. And in fact, it's a bunch of Zealots and a Photon Cannon, so he knows that's fairly well defended at this point. But actually, with this army, that actually isn't really that well defended, but whatever. Doesn't look like he quite wants to move out just yet. continuing to get these upgrades. He's been very, very diligent about these upgrades in all of these games that have been played so far, which is something that, like I've mentioned a few times, a lot of players really, really overlook, is getting those upgrades so that you can make all of your units better. Why build one more unit that can do a little bit more damage when you can make all of your units do a lot more damage? So, getting a whole bunch more gateways up, sending out some Dark Templar finally. It looks like he's actually going to couple that with a Phoenix Harass, which could be very, very deadly. Don't know what exactly that was, but moving along here. Phoenixes are coming up from behind, but here comes the Dark Templar. Oh dear. Oh no, he already had the Overseer up. Did he actually scout that at some point? It doesn't look like he did, but Overseer was just already there, just hanging out. He might have just been expecting it because there was just not a whole lot of action happening. You do see like players just kind of build detection because, well, what if he decides to go Dark Templar? And unfortunately that DT rush came a little late. So he's going to go ahead and get his Templar Archives up, try to get some high Templar action going on. But Newborn is in very, very much, I would say, a commanding lead at this point. They're both sitting on 2 bases, so not much of an economic lead. In fact, if I go to the unit counting station, Spacek actually has a lot more probes than Newborn has drones. But yeah, we're seeing just a whole lot more units out of Newborn at this point. This Stargate really hasn't been used in a while. Honestly, some Void Rays would not be bad, just for a little bit of poking action, a little bit of harass at the back end here or something. But there are those Spore Crawlers, so maybe that is a bad idea. Maybe you should just go ahead and get a whole bunch more units. These gateways are really not getting used all that much. I would really like to see them actually making units. I think that's been the big problem that Spacek has had so far, is just not making enough units. But here's a big push now coming out from Newborn. He's got a whole ton of roaches, 2 control groups worth of roaches, well, a control group and a third worth of roaches, and a ton of Hydralisks as well. This is going to be scary. And honestly, I do not think Spacek is anywhere near prepared for this. He does have these Dark Templar, but unfortunately, with that detector out, with that Overseer there, there's actually 2 Overseers, so if one dies, he still has a backup. That's just not going to do very good. The Phoenixes do spot that army is there, so he is going to know that his demise is short, but I don't know that he can actually do anything about it at this point. Spawning in more Zealots, more Stalkers, but simply just not a whole lot of stuff here at this point. Looks like in the middle of this, Newborn is deciding to get an expansion down. He's going to come over here. Yeah, he's going to break down these destructible rocks. Just sort of pew away at those for a little bit. Tell those Zerglings, no, please do not run headlong into the enemy's base. I don't know if those 3 Zerglings are actually going to make much of a difference, but every Zergling matters. We've been over this. Oh, wow, they're actually able to hit that from there. Overseer, Overseer does die, so that's a minor victory for Spacek here. And how did those Zerglings get through there? That is such a tiny position. But anyway, here they come. The range just doing so much for these Hydralisks. He's able to pick off the units almost as quickly as they actually get up there and are able to attack. Honestly, should really fall back at this point. The Zealots are trying to get up there in the front. All they're doing mostly is soaking up damage. The Dark Templar are getting annihilated because that Overseer is still there. The Phoenixes are not able to kill it in time and are now dying themselves. There is just so much damage coming out. Hydralisks do so much damage. They're very, very squishy, but they can deal damage in such a ridiculously high rate that the Cybernetics core falls. Now the gap is wide open, and these Zerg units are going to start pouring in here. In fact, that pylon coming down now as well. I do not see an option for Newborn or for Spacek, and there it is. Good game, well played. Newborn takes this series 3-0 against Spacek in the semifinals. He will be going on to the finals of the Kaze SC2 Tournament, which again is just a fun tournament between some friends. It's nothing too major. There's no major cash prize or anything, but you feel good for winning a tournament. So Newborn is going to be one of our 2 contenders in the finals. We will hopefully be very soon finding out who our other contender is going to be. So thank you very, very much for watching. Keep an eye here for even more games coming up, hopefully very soon. And my name is Devilor. I will talk to you guys later.